Our information. Welcome.
Take two.
Take two. Welcome to our information session on the team coaching program from ACT. I'm Ashley Abbott, and with me is Erin Hutchins, founder of ACT Leadership.
Yes, and joining us today is also Phil Dang, who is a former student of the team coaching program, and he's here to share his experience on the program. So we're going to hear from him in a little bit. But first, we wanted to welcome you. Thank you for whether you're here live with us or you're listening to this recording. Thank you for taking the time to find out more about our team coaching program. I'm going to, Ashley, do you want to start with introductions or do you want me to start?
Sure. Sure. I will start, and then we'll give you a sense of what we're planning to cover today. I'm Ashley Abbott. I'm an executive coach and team coach for the last, dozen years or so. I've been working with Erin and Mike at ACT Leadership for a number of years, both in their one-on-one coaching programs and Leader as Coach program, and now the team coaching program in conjunction with Brown University. So if you hear an accent, it's because I'm based in Toronto, but I love flying around the world and meeting teams and meeting people. I'm also one of the facilitators of the program in all the modules that you'll encounter if you join us.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley really heads up this program for us at ACT Leadership, and he has done a tremendous amount of work of just adding so much rigor to this program, and we're just really thankful that he's part of this. I'm Erin Hutchins. I'm one of the co-founders of ACT Leadership. I think maybe some of you we've met before. I see some new faces here as well. I am also an executive coach. I'm an MCC, and I would say started out for the first 10 years of coaching, really coaching individuals, and spending time doing a lot of coaching and coaching within organizations. And then later decided that doing work in organizations, we were hearing, how do we help make our teams more effective? How do we help our teams? Because that's what teams are made up of, as people. And so we started doing team coaching without really having a lot of structure and methodology around it. And we were getting a lot of good lessons learned around what's working and what's not working with real-time application in organizations. And later we decided that we need to create a solid team coaching program that is easy to apply for coaches who are wanting to get into this field. So we did. And we co-created this program. Mike, myself, and Ashley Abbott created this program. Really, and it's for coaches. So just so you know, if you're coming on this program, one of the prereqs is that you must be have gone through a coaching certification program, or at least completed module 3 in our coaching certification program. Just wanted to say that. And been doing a lot of team coaching since. So I've worked with lots of teams in delivering our methodology and helping them ultimately become more effective and be in deeper relationships with each other. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. We partner with the Brown School of Professional Studies out of Providence, Rhode Island, to deliver this program. So we've been in partnership with Brown for many years. We share similar values with Brown University. We have faculty that help teach the program, and we offer our leadership and coaching certification program with Brown. And we also offer our team coaching program in partnership with Brown. So what that means is that at the end of the course, you would receive a certificate of completion, both from ACT and from Brown University. I think that's enough said right now about Ashley and I. Maybe more will come in a little bit. Today on the webinar, we want to give you an overview of sort of, first off, like why we created this program and what are the different parts of the program, so you get a sense. We want to hear from Phil, who's going to be sharing his experience on being a student, a former alumni of the program. And then we're going to go into the program details around dates, how you can apply and register for the program at the end. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat box as we go along. We'll try to take and weave some of them in, and then we'll also make sure that we allow time at the end for questions.
And so, speaking of the chat box, let's start there. Before we get into all that detail, let's have you type in the chat box what brought you here today. Like, what is your interest in team coaching? Why now? And perhaps anything you would like to make sure we cover in this webinar for you. So we'll try to keep at least one eye on the chat box. We'll try to weave in answers as we go. We may defer some until our Q&A that we'll have at the end of our session today before we sign off.
I'm appreciating Dan's picture here because I feel like he keeps trying to show me something in his pictures, and I just saw that they were socks. So thank you.
Those are unicorn socks.
I know.
That's was a gift to me by a friend's daughter who's big into unicorns. I complimented her once on her unicorn attire, and next thing I knew, she sent me socks.
You're going to be Uncle Unicorn for the rest of her life, right?
Exactly.
Thanks for sharing that. And welcome, Al. We see that you're there. Feel free to turn on your camera if you're comfortable a bit later.
And thank you for letting us know who you are and what you want to get out of this program. We're going to be looking at that, so make sure we hit those points. And we also realize there's been a new ICF announcement about team coaching. We'll get to that too in the webinar. Okay, over to you, Ashley.
So we talk about the program.
Yes.
Aaron? So Aaron did a great, it seems a bit obvious, but I think you did a great introduction of why we created it and sort of where it came from. So, you know, Aaron and my co-founders, Vat, have been doing a lot of team coaching in a lot of large organizations over the years. And so this has grown both sort of organically as well as we want to find more evidence-based sort of approach to the material we have. So we do refer to research done at Harvard University and other published authors to include that to give really some substance to our approach in the modules. So we start with module 1, we call from one-to-one to one-to-many. And that is really letting you know that we're building on the foundation that you have as a one-on-one coach. So the mindsets of a one-on-one coach, the skills, the competencies, the responsibilities of one-on-one coach, all of those have an analog in the team coaching arena. So we want to make use of that foundation and then grow upon it. Like, what's different? Right? Teams are different. There's more than just you and one other person. And every time you add another person to an organization, the number of the dynamics and the number of relationships goes up exponentially. So we want to at least show you how those skills and mindsets can be used as tools and also a lens to look through when you're working with teams.
I think the important thing to say here about module 1 is, like Ashley said, it's called one-to-one to one-to-many, because we're trying to meet you where you are with your experience in one-on-one coaching and then build from there. Everything is contextualized and looking through the lens of working with a team. So like in one-on-one coaching, you're very much focused on that individual. Well, on a team, there could be 12 individuals on a team, and we're looking at how do we coach the collective? So we're not spending time with each individual on the team, but how do we coach the team itself? So you're going to be learning, as Ashley said, these mindsets, these skills, translating them to a team. And also you're going to learn how to teach some of them, because the idea is we teach you how to teach some of these skills back to the team so they have a language. Everybody on the team is speaking the same language and can utilize the skills and put them into real play and practice.
So for those of you that might not have come from ACT's coaching program, Leadership and Performance Coaching Certification, we do have bridging material, which takes just a couple hours, so that you're starting out, you don't feel like you're starting behind the starting line with weird terms when you arrive at the team coaching program. So not rocket science. It's just it's a combination of reading and some videos that help you really feel welcomed into the program when you get to module 1.
Just before we keep moving on, Ashley, to stay on module 1 for a little bit, the way that we train is there's always 2 co-facilitators, and Ashley is there for each of the modules, there's a lot of role plays. So the way that we make it experiential is through the role plays in real practice. So at times you might be a role player, you might be a team coach where you're getting that practice and experience with each other and then giving feedback. So we might introduce you to a skill or a concept or do an exercise with the team leader, and then you're practicing with each other during the module. The also important thing to say is that we look through the lens of leadership and performance in team coaching. So we're looking at the context is, how do we help teams ultimately become more aware so they can be at greater choice and really be conscious of the decisions that they're making and how that's impacting the organization, how it's impacting results, how it's impacting their relationships and how they're working together. So we're using the developmental psychology piece around reactive to creative. So Bob Keegan's model around looking at how do we help teams become more aware when they're in that reactive state, and then choose if they want to operate from more of a creative, sustainable state of being in relationship and getting results, that duality at the same time. So that feels important to say, because that's the lens that this was designed through and how it's delivered throughout the program.
Mhm. And it's there are small cohorts where right now we accept up to 26. That may change, but 26 people, and so it's a fairly intimate experience. So you're not one of a sea of faces in multiple screens of Zoom. We've got one screen of Zoom, and in fact, the next module one is actually in person, which we'll talk about closer to the end. So people get to know each other. Right, Phil will have a little more to say about that when he speaks. But people actually, we get to know and trust each other a bit in a really inclusive learning environment. So you know, it can be sometimes nerve-wracking to feel like you're doing something new in front of a bunch of people, and people usually find it's a very supportive way to learn. Right, so we keep it intimate, we keep it lively as we can, and hopefully a bit entertaining as well.
So after we have module 1, which is again is 3 consecutive days, whether that's virtual or in person at Brown University, we then have 2 things that happen in between module 1 and module 2. We have a field application project, which you're paired up with another person from the cohort to deliver a minimum of a 90-minute coaching session with a team. So you're getting real-time experience in between the modules. And we wanted this as part of the program because we want you to go out there and have the experience and get the feedback.
Okay.
We also,
And
yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
We spent some time in module 1 building you up to be able to do that, so that we, you know, all the way through, we're encouraging you. How do you want to describe team coaching? How do you want to describe the role of a team coach versus perhaps other roles that teams might engage with sometimes? You know, how do you want to set up the relationship with the team leader or whoever is bringing you in? How do you want to set up the relationship between you and the team? So we start building up to feel ready to do that. And we give you a partner, as Aaron said, right? So you're not doing this all on your lonesome. You do it with someone else, which makes it a lot more fun. And then we have you debrief with even another pair before coming back to module 2. Right. So we give you sort of the tracks to run on for that, just to get you out there and actually see what you've learned, even though you're only about halfway through the program. See what you've learned in action.
We also have, Ashley, do you want to talk about the inclusion seminar?
Yeah, the other piece is a half-day inclusion seminar delivered on Zoom, which is part of our program that we felt it deserved its own space, right? Because part of what really affects team dynamics is how well it makes use of the people that are on the team. And if there are people on the team that are not feeling included, or somehow either explicitly or implicitly being excluded or being made to feel that their contributions are not valuable, they don't have space for them, it really severely affects the way that the team can achieve its goals. And so we want to give special attention to what are the mindsets and the skills that you already know as a one-on-one coach, that you have been learning about in module 1 as a team coach, that you can use to look out for that, start to raise the team's awareness of that, and help them have the conversation and address what they need to address to make sure that they're getting full inclusion on their team. So that's the part of the half day, about a 3-hour seminar that we offer in between modules 1 and module 2.
And then you come back for module 2, which is always virtual. So even if you do the module 1 in person, it's always virtual. It's 2 consecutive days. And module 2 is really heavy on application. So we have a methodology called the easier, which we wanted to name it that because it actually, we're trying to look at how could we build a framework to make it easy for our team coaches in applying it out in the field. And that's exactly what it is. And it's a framework from the start of a coaching engagement, from when you engage, which is the E, with a client. How do you then implement team coaching sessions, from being able to assess what it is that they need, and then set up a team coaching session, as well as then go into the interventions of a team coaching session, the actual team coaching sessions themselves. So we have a whole arc of that, which is the easier framework from beginning to the end, that we walk you through and have you experience in module 2, so you feel ready to take on engagements.
We start to introduce, at least at the high level, that easier framework in module 1, so you get a bit of context, because module 1 is focused on the live interaction that a team coach has with a team. And as Erin started to show, there's more than just that live interaction, right? There's a whole arc of an engagement. How, when you first engage with a team leader or whoever's bringing you into an organization that is considering team coaching, how do you move over to assess what shape the team is in, so you know what they might need? So that's the A, right? And then how do you set up the team so that you can have constructive intervention? So that's the S, is part of the setup, where people look at how, the structure of the team and the behavior of the team, so that it's pointed in a direction of useful interaction and useful intervention when you get there. The intervene and empower bit is the middle. That's the focus of module 1, the skills and the mindset that help you really work with the team. And finally, we end with a bit of review, which is taking stock of how the team is done and how the team feels about itself at the end. So that's where we start module 2, right? We start with both, what was your experience after module 1, being out there in the field, trying on some of this, the skills and the interventions out in the field, bringing that and cross-pollinating the learning in module 2. And then after we give you a few more skills and a few more things to think about in module 2 as a team coach, we actually take you through a case study that takes you through those steps of E, A, S, I, E, and R in a fictitious case study with a series of videos and interactions amongst the participants, yourselves, to really put into action what you've been learning, so that you feel like, yeah, I can run a team coaching engagement.
So that's a little bit about the program from start to finish. We're going to now give Phil some time now to introduce himself. He was in one of our previous cohorts. We asked him to come on to talk about his experience of the program and how he's applying it. So Phil, if you'd like to start with maybe introducing yourself and then going into your experience of the program, and then we'll see if there's specific questions that anybody wants to ask you.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Phil Dang. Background, I'm a psychologist as well as a coach. I've been doing coaching for the past 5 years or so. And more specifically, I've been a psychologist and a coach in the Navy. I've been in the Navy for about 8.5 years now, thereabouts. So the reason I got into coaching overall is that there was a demand signal in regards to, effectively developing leaders. We recognized that there were issues with certain areas, certain commands, and so that's where we were brought in. And during the course of that, obviously I got certified with ICF and I needed to get CEUs. Pretty straightforward. So I was looking for different programs to supplement that. So looked at different programs, but the thing that really drew me to team coaching is that we really don't work in a silo, right? We have different individuals in the military, but by and large, we are working in a team, whether it's small teams because we have very specific efforts that we're working towards, or a large group. So with that, I started looking at team coaching programs overall, just quick Google, so on and so forth. And being both based in Rhode Island, one of the first ones that came up was the ACT program. That was something that was nice, just because it was easy to access in the event that it was in person. We wouldn't have to travel too much, but it was also nice to have the Zoom option as well. That being said, though, throughout the search for different team coaching programs, what really drew me to ACT was that it was well organized, right? A lot of the different programs that I looked at were put on by individuals, or maybe a couple of individuals who were really bringing forth their specific experiences and sharing that as a means of providing team coaching. And speaking to the individual staff members at ACT, it was really a more well-rounded, well-developed program. So it was really nice. It was very easy to step in and kind of buy into the product. While I was in the program, what really helped solidify everything is that, it was based in, at least for me, quite a bit of science, right? Like I said earlier, I am a psychologist by trade. And so a lot of the concepts, a lot of the skills that were taught were really based on that, at least from my interpretation of it. And so it was like, okay, this is something that's coming in that we can use in a group format and a team format in a meaningful way. For me specifically, though, what also helped me is that being a psychologist, coming in, doing team coaching or coaching in general, I really steered away from psychological concepts, right? It's something that was for a lot of folks kind of scary, especially for senior leaders, whether on the officer side or on the enlisted side. Psychology or mental health providers are seen as a career killer for a lot of them. So with the language that ACT provided, it gave me something else to use, a different vocabulary that I could use with them that made it seem less intimidating. So coming in, I've been able to do coaching over the past year and a half or so, because I think I was in the February 2021 cohort. I've been doing it with triads, so that's the commanding officer, executive officer, and the senior enlisted, as well as larger groups, whether it's enlisted or officer side, and just really helping them to better understand what it is that they're working towards. And a lot of what we were working towards was just more effective communication. Right? A lot of the concepts that were taught, at least for me, based on the way I interpreted it, was just learning how to effectively communicate in order to work towards a specific objective that you have as a team. And a lot of these individuals have very strong personalities. So it's really learning how to temper that in a way that allowed them to be effective without necessarily working in silos in a way that is counterproductive. So that's my background in a nutshell. I know I speak a little bit fast, but any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I would like to hear, actually, Phil, just a little bit about meeting the other participants and what it's like in the learning.
Yeah, so the learning was great. There was quite a diverse group. I think one of the individuals that was part of the group was from, I think he was from in Hong Kong at the time, because he was part of a hotel group. Mm-hmm. And so, different time zones, all that kind of stuff, different backgrounds, different experiences. So it was very nice to meet individuals that were not military, right? Everyone I've interacted with have been military so far. But what we were also able to do was to foster relationships outside of this, right? As a part of the field work, as well as other group experiences that we had with the role play, we were able to have, granted it was virtual, but we were able to have sidebars and get to know each other a little bit more, so that we were able to maintain relationships beyond just the ACT program itself. Currently, I'm working with one individual that I met through ACT in order to develop we're working together as a team to provide team coaching. So it's something that we are still working towards. Now, in the program itself, the role play was a lot of, at least for me, was a lot of fun. I was able to bring in a lot of the different personalities that I've seen and be a participant in such a way that was hopefully not seen as too belligerent in different ways. But yeah, just learning different styles, seeing how they operate. A lot of what I've done has just been with a very specific technique. Again, steering away from the psych piece. So bringing that in, it allowed me to really stretch myself a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Looks like we have a question from Dan. Dan, do you want to take yourself off of mute?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the background, Phil. I think Aaron spoke to the experiential aspect you touched on a little bit. And so I'm just curious how that plays out in the classroom. I understand the field work would be experiential, but could you speak to what the experiential learning is actually like in the class environment?
In regards to the role play, or like how we bring the field work into it?
Probably the role play, because the training I went through was experiential, and I currently teach in a program as well. And that in the one-to-one, it's very clear how you can do that. I'm curious how it works in the team environment. So yeah, I guess it sounds like it's role playing, but if you could just maybe speak to what that's actually like.
Sure, sure. So it's been a little bit, but from what I recall, we had different scenarios. Some of them were created for us. There was a specific company that we were coming in to provide team coaching for, and then I think one or two were created by us with different difficulties that we might be experiencing with team members. So the way that it was set up was that we had two team coaches that were engaged, and then we had a number of team members. So the team members, they kind of went off and did their own thing just to kind of pre-plan how it is that they were going to operate, different personalities or whatever it might be. And then we came back in as a large group. Some of them were breakout groups, some of them were as a within the larger class setting, where the team coach would then try and not necessarily direct, to provide the skills necessary to soften the personalities, I suppose. So it was generally, I think, 5 team members and then 2 team coaches. So generally about 7, thereabouts. And then it was just observed by the other individuals, and then feedback was given to us afterwards. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, just a little bit about that as well. We start off pretty gently in module 1 with just one team coach and a few people as role players for about 10 minutes, right? Just trying to establish some of the things we want to establish at the beginning of a coaching engagement. And then we have a few exercises that are done with the whole room present, right? So I'll have some people role playing, some people as observers to give some comments afterwards to create a rich debrief. And sometimes we break out into small groups with a trainer and then occasionally without a trainer, just to try on some of what's just been learned. Yeah.
Also in the program, we try to bring in a team, a real team. If it's available to us for those cohorts, we try to bring in a real team for the participants to coach on a particular topic. So that's also offered. The thing about team coaching is, and I just want to see if there's any other questions also for Phil, if you want to drop them in the chat or be thinking of your questions for Phil. So I'll just talk a little bit about while we're waiting for that, is that in team coaching, it's like a mix of, you're doing a lot of different things. You're wearing a lot of different hats. It's like this program's offered to coaches because we want people to have they need to have an understanding of coaching in order to deliver team coaching. It also helps if you have experience with consulting, facilitation, for example, if you've been in different leadership positions, you're used to working with teams or managing teams, that also helps, because you very early on start realizing what's the difference between a team coach and a facilitator, or what's the role of the team leader and the team members. And what's the difference between team coach and consultant, for example, or, and before I got into coaching, I was a consultant. So we have actually a 1-page slide in the beginning to actually show the different lanes of the different roles, which is important. In the experiential aspect, what we're looking for, the goal of the team coaching is really to help teams increase their level of awareness and understand the collective impact that they're having as a team. Which, if you think about it, if you think about like teams you've been on, if there's strong personalities in the room, if there's conflicts, or if they're trying to reach a goal, people have different opinions, yeah? And oftentimes we try to drive people to agree, but we're not teaching that. We're not trying to drive people to get to an agreement. We're trying to get to an alignment, with the team in order to make informed choices and decisions where they can take responsibility for the results. So in that process, there's a lot that gets uncovered and comes up. And just like in one-on-one, it's like you start to kind of get to the underlying assumptions and beliefs with your clients. Yeah. Well, think about it. If you have 10 people in a room that you're working with, how do you manage that? So what we're training you to do is feel confident in working with chaos in the room, in the team, and look at how do you surface this without getting attached and sucked into the issue or the challenge or their goal they're trying to reach. How do you help empower the team and give them the skills and resources to then be able to navigate through conflict, navigate through challenges, and work towards their goals in a constructive way that is sustainable for them. And that's why the transfer of skills is so important to the team, because without the transfer of skills, without them having any skills, it's hard to do that. Yeah, they might get a little bit somewhere, but then the idea is like, how do I come in as a team coach and then ultimately work myself way out? Yeah, so I can transfer what I know to the team.
I wanted
So
to build on that as well, Erin, that there's the relational aspect of team coaching, but there's also putting the conditions in place in the team's design so that it can function well. So it's really hard for people to have like relational skills try to compensate for a lack of proper design for a team. So in module 2, we do look at what are some of these central conditions that have to be in place if any team is going to have a chance at succeeding? And then what are some of the enabling conditions that kind of really add fuel to the fire, if you will, of a team being able to perform? So that's the more structural aspect, the more design aspect. So we look at both. We look at sort of the relational stuff that goes on, and we look at like, how did you design the team so that it has the right people, it's got a sense of purpose, they have the help they need, they're in a context that is useful, and who on the team is responsible for getting that in place, the team itself or perhaps the team leader. So we do take a look at that as well. All right.
any other questions or comments for Phil before we go into like the details of the program and what upcoming dates are? Any questions for Phil?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Phil, for sharing your experience and being able to speak to that. It's always helpful hearing it from a prior student. And again, you're welcome to stay on with us, or if you need to drop off, that's okay too. But thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Phil.
So
well,
I think,
it's going to
yeah.
turn towards the logistics, right? The information, like the dates, how
Yes.
to find out more information, how to be in touch with us. So she's going to show the website to give you all that information, and then keep typing questions in the chat if you want us to respond to them.
Ashley, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen?
I can. Thumbs up.
Okay. So on the website, this is our website. You may have been here or not. We have our coaching certification program, and then here's our advanced coaching programs, team coaching, and then our next level is really focused on individual coaching. So if you click on the team coaching page, it takes you to this landing page here. And here we are with the webinar. You can go to program dates and curriculum to find out a little bit more. We have a winter cohort that's going on right now, so that's you're not able to apply for that program. The next cohort that is starting is in the spring. Module 1, April 18th to 20th, will be in person at the Brown School of Professional Studies. Again, that's in Providence, Rhode Island. If you haven't been there, it's a beautiful building. It's a new glass building. The room is really nice and open. We sit in a U shape. So the idea is that really fosters an environment for learning, experiential learning and practice and being present.
And the restaurants are good.
Yeah, restaurants are good. There's a date here for the inclusion seminar, which is also on the website. That's May 9th. It's 3 hours. And then module 2 is June 6th through 7th, and that's virtual, and it's 2 days. We have our fall dates up as well right now. So we have, it's a 100% virtual program. So you can see the dates. It starts in September. We have the inclusion seminar in October, and then we have module 2, which is 2 days in November. If you would like to register for the program, you can do that on the register page here, where there's different tuition. There's different tuition for the virtual programs and then for the hybrid program. So the tuition for the hybrid program is $5,495, and then it looks like the early bird gives you $500 off. And that goes until February 18th. So you have a couple more weeks if you want to get the early bird for the spring program. Fall dates, the program tuition is $4,995, and there's also an early bird of $500 off and that's by July 19th. And then the registration is below where you can register for the program. Ashley, is there anything else that's worth sharing on here?
I guess just how to be in touch with us if you want to get more information.
Yep. So our program advisor, Laura Lee, will be sending you a follow-up email with the recording after this call, and you can be in touch with her if you have more questions about the program. And so you should all receive that follow-up email, and you can be in touch if you need to speak to somebody else or you have other questions about the program. So let's take a moment now and see what questions or comments that you have, and feel free to take yourself off of mute or just pop them in the chat box.
So far, this looks like the friendliest but quietest group we've had in a long time.
I can change that, Ashley.
All right, thanks, Gigi.
You know, I always speak out. So I've been looking at a lot of different team coaching opportunities, organizations, certifications, et cetera. What differentiates ACT? And also, if you can speak to the relationship with Brown, that's what really intrigues me about this. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll start with the distinctions, and then maybe Aaron, you can round out with a bit of that and the relationship with Brown. Well, number one, small cohorts, up to a couple dozen people, and that really supports the experiential learning, right? The other programs that we are out there mostly are not experiential learning. Very heavy reliance on reading and watching outside of the classroom. We do incorporate some of that. We do have some reading and we do have some watching to do, but it all supports what happens inside the classroom. All of our programs are co-led. And I think another distinguisher is that it's not just books that people have written out there, but there's some structure and research that we bring in a light way. So don't, we're not going to ask you to write term papers or write or read like long journal articles. But we have found ways to incorporate research that people have been doing on teams for decades into those essentials and enablers that really support team design to give it a fighting chance to succeed. Right. So I think there's that mix of the structural and the evidence-based stuff, as well as the relational. And lots of programs really rely on the relational. And the third and final thing I'll mention is that there's the engagement structure. So some of the programs, and I've taken team coaching programs in the past, and while they're heavy on maybe some exercises and some theory, what I felt I was lacking was the, so how does this go down in our organization, right? How do I first engage with a team leader or HR or organizational development or a team? And then how do I sort of work with them to figure out what they need and help them work with, to get that structure in place and intervene? And then how do I leave them? So I think that's something that we offer.
A couple more thoughts there. We put hundreds of hours into this program, and myself, Mike, and I, as the co-founders, our own time working with Ashley in this program. We've spent so many hours on this program to get it right, and that's been really important to us. What inspired us to create this program is that, based upon our own experience working with organizational clients. I mean, we've been, Mike and I, myself, are former consultants, and we're both coaches, and we have a lot of experience working with organizations and leaders and teams. And what inspired us to create this program is that we wanted to give coaches a training that was going to be useful for them and where they can easily apply it, where it's like, sometimes when you see team coaching, you think, oh gosh, this looks complex. I'm going to have to study and learn about this, and then I don't know how to apply it. What we wanted to focus on is application, and how do we create confident team coaches that can learn how to apply this. And so I would say, like, that I would add that piece to it. The other piece is the Brown relationship is we're faculty at, Mike and myself are faculty at Brown University. We've had a really good partnership with them. They have blessed all of this content, and we feel honored to have gone through that process where they have looked over our research and what we've done and the material that we are presenting here. And so I would say that part, and at the end of this program, you would receive a certificate of completion from ACT Leadership and also the Brown School of Professional Studies as part of this program. I think that's one unique thing as well. And there's another piece I wanted to say that keeps slipping my mind, but I guess I would just continue to highlight the practicality of the course. You know, when people get approached from organizations to say, how do you work with my team? Where we've heard the biggest pain point for coaches is like, I don't know how to approach this request I'm getting from my client. Like I can create something, I can design something, but I need a structure that I can propose and be able to work within that structure, that container. And so the team coaching process is really heavy on design. And it does take that sort of design lens, that consultant lens, in order to then deliver it and execute on it. And I think that's one of the unique things that we're bringing into the program as well. Hopefully that helps. You can tell we're passionate about team coaching. That like the way that I got into it was because like I wanted to work with teams. I love my one-on-one coaching work. I love my clients, but I wanted to be challenged and I wanted to do something new. And it was so like I love the work I do with teams because it is challenging, it's dynamic, and it is new. And you can see the results. Like it's not just impacting one person, but you're impacting a lot of people, which is really neat. And as far as like what we've seen some of our team coaches go and do from the program is it's expanded their business model. Like it expands as coaches, they're able to then offer something else and help have a different business model of then instead of just being able to offer one-on-one coaching piece too. Okay, Dan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. All this is very exciting, having fallen into teams by virtue of some of the things you're saying, is being asked to do certain things. And I love working with teams. I've led teams. Now ICF has the certification. So I'm just wondering, does this meet their minimum hours? I'm trying to learn now that that's new. Can you just speak to that?
Yes, we are in the process of working with ICF on the hour piece. So it hasn't, we don't have an answer for you for right now, but we hope we are on the pathway to meeting those hours of training required hours. And as you know, with the ICF, like this is new, there's a lot of questions that have been coming out about the certification. So we've had the same questions, but yes, we are on the pathway, and that is our goal as an organization.
Yeah, it felt a little cart before the horse in that ICF's putting out there, all these people are saying excited, like, this is great. Yeah. I do this work already. Where do I go get training? And then you're like, where do I go get training? So
yes.
Like Shishi, I'm trying to figure out who offers what and does it meet their requirements?
They haven't put out the path yet for organizations as a pathway, and they're going to be putting that out very soon. But they put, like you said, they offered it to individuals before putting out the pathways to organizations to take the training. So that's kind of where the disconnect is coming from. But just know that that's coming, and ACT will be applying for that, for the team coaching pathway credential.
So just to follow up to that, just doing the math, is it 40 hours of training, or does the field work incorporate more? What is the ultimate, like,
yes.
I know you're working with ICF, but what's the figure that you are currently?
We have 60 hours of training in this program, but ICF, as far as continuing education credits before all of this came out, only offer a maximum of 40 hours for continuing education credits now. And so that's where the disconnect is. Although our program has more hours, we're only approved for 40 CEUs, and we know that that's going to change. So that's this program, as far as the hours of training hours, the field project, the inclusion seminar, equals 60+ hours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the hours, they're still valid CEU hours, right? So you can actually count them towards your one-on-one credential renewal, right? And you can count them towards one-on-one credential and also the ACTP.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Looks like Radhika has joined us. No, you got caught up. We will be emailing out a link to a recording.
Thank you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, what you just spoke to with the ICF and what you all are working toward, is there any sense of a timeline? And for instance, if we were to sign up for the spring cohort and the hours aren't approved or the programming isn't approved by ICF until after, is that retroactive?
We're hoping so, because our former students have come to us and said, how can we make up those? How can we get on this pathway? And so it is our full intention to make that happen and to work with ICF to make that happen. We just can't say for sure until we go through that process because we already have the hours there. We just have to go through the process of that. But yes, that is our hope.
The very least you're going to have is 2/3 of the hours that are required.
Yeah.
40 hours. That's at the very least.
Yeah.
Radhika, your hand's up.
Yeah, thank you.
Correct
Thank
the
you.
pronunciation of your name.
Thank you for checking on that. It's Radhika. Thank you.
Radhika, thank you.
Yes. So my quick question was about the spring dates that are coming up. I noticed that module 1 says in person.
Yes.
Is there any chance that it might be also kind of like a hybrid situation where it might be offered online as well, or is it strictly only in person?
The module 1 is strictly in person and the module 2 is virtual. So we won't have virtual and in person for the spring.
Okay, thank you.
In the autumn, the fall one is all virtual.
Yeah.
And I think you missed our plug for Providence, Rhode Island. It's a lovely place, a lovely campus, lovely building with good restaurants. It's really a nice place to.
And I'm excited to be doing this back in person because, and actually Ashley and I will be co-facilitating the module in April together. I'm just excited to be back in person because we used to deliver this in person before the pandemic and everything went online. And so we're excited to be back together.
All right. Let's see. Oh, the hotel. Let's see. There are lots of hotels. There's the Hotel Providence, which is a sweet old world kind of hotel with good breakfast in it. There's also the Aloft Hotel, which is directly next door. It's literally the building next door. So it's about a 3-minute walk from door to door. There are a number of hotels downtown. There's a Graduate Hotel, which is the old Biltmore. It's also sort of a stylish boutique kind of hotel experience. There's quite a range. There's also, I think, some Marriotts.
If you sign up for the program, we give you a list of hotels and also you get the Brown rate as well. So that would be sent out to you.
I just was curious if there was one property that most participants stay in.
The good thing about Providence is you can walk across the downtown in about 8 minutes. So it's really small. It's a really lovely place to visit, and it's on a river. And there's a great actually vegan restaurant right across the river too. So I mean, your eating is well covered no matter what your preferences are. Typically, people stay within a 10-minute walk if they can, and that's the 3 I mentioned are in that radius, and there are more.
The other thing is if you come in person, I'm trying to sell in person. I know almost good. I'm very excited about it. Virtual is just as, I mean, everything is the same in the virtual course as far as content, but you do get some Brown swag, Act Brown swag if you come in person. So that's also the exciting thing about being in person. And the coffee's good too. So these are the little things that you start appreciating as being a trainer, for those of you that are trainers and delivering things, like you really start appreciating. It's like,
and you know what's great about the in-person is that on Zoom, it's hard to create the cross-pollination of the social kind of connection, right? Not that you're there for social connection, but you do have breaks together when you're in person. You do choose to have lunch together sometimes or have a dinner together. And that's just a really nice experience.
and day 3 lunch is catered in. Because we let you out a little bit earlier for those who have to catch flights, and we have time to eat, and then we go into more of an in-depth Q&A session on day 3. So, okay, well, thank you all for showing up and attending, and your curiosity and questions. We hope that we cross paths with you in the future, whether it's now or sometime later. And
nice to see familiar faces as well.
yes,
Here and there.
it's nice to be with coaching people. It's like that's the other fun thing about the training, is that you're with your fellow coaches. So, yeah.
Okay. Bye,
Okay.
Thank you
everyone.
all very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye, Dan.
Bye.
Everybody, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Ready to
Have a
go.
good rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.